Hi guys, and welcome to this video. In this video I am showing you how I drew this wolf with colored pencils on pastel matte paper. For the background I used Panpastel to create it. I wanted to achieve a soft and out of focus background so it wouldn't take too much from the wolf, but it should still resemble a forest setting, maybe at fall or winter time. I used a soft tool and just some cheap makeup sponges and softly blended everything out. The great thing about Panpastels is that you can actually mix the colors to achieve even more colors. So I actually used a warm green, as I didn't have any that matched the color I wanted, and then I mixed it with some cool grays for most of the background, just to make the green a bit colder. And then I used some blue to resemble the sky, and some brown as well. This is actually my very first try at using colored pencils on PASTELMAT. I've been seeing a lot of great artists doing it, and it looked like so much fun. I was a bit unsure of how I would like the texture, which is really why I haven't tried it yet. I've been using it for pastels for a very long time, but they are softer and I don't like the very scratchy feel that sanded paper comes with, which I've tried a few times. Drawing with colored pencils on a paper like PASTELMAT or any sanded paper is incredibly different from using very smooth paper surfaces, which is what I usually do. So to begin with, this was quite a bit of a challenge. The tooth of the paper helped to very quickly lay down a lot of pigment, and I noticed that larger areas were covered incredibly fast. However, this also meant that I could literally see the paper eating up my pencils. And this got me quite distraught and annoyed to begin with, because pencils are quite expensive and it felt like I could literally see them disappear before my eyes. But as I continued to work on my drawing, I actually realized that it didn't eat up any more than a usual piece like this would. It just seemed like it because of the quick laydown and the texture. Another big advantage was the fact that I didn't have to sharpen my pencils very often, as the paper surface didn't require a really sharp point. A lot of the smoother papers really require a sharp point to have an even laydown and to help you get the pigment onto the paper evenly. So that was quite nice actually. When working with OMS, I quickly found I had to use quite a lot more paint thinner. Usually my brush is almost dry, but then I couldn't really move any of the pigment around as the paper really sucked it out. And this also meant that the feathering was quite bad, as you can see. So I had to be really careful along the edges of the wolf so that the OMS wouldn't be dragged out onto the background where it dissolved the Panpastel. It wasn't that big of a problem as it was easy covered again with Panpastel, but it was annoying having to go back and work on the background and then work on the wolf. But it was more about me not being used to this technique and how much OMS I needed. But in general, working with OMS on this paper wasn't an issue at all. It blended really well. Maybe a tad too much, but again, I used way more OMS than I'm used to. Normally I would blend some of my later layers as well, just to soften out the fur. I didn't do that here, and part of this was because I felt like it blended a lot, but also that the texture of the paper showing through actually had quite a nice look. I quite liked the roughness of it. In the beginning I felt like getting details and sharp edges was pretty much impossible. And in the first hour of working on the wolf, I wanted to throw him away a million times. But as I kept working on the paper and just building layers, it became less of an issue and it wasn't actually that big of a problem. I still didn't feel like I could achieve as much detail as usually, but I've seen other artists who are capable to, I think it's about practice and this piece not being enough to develop a technique fitting for this type of texture. All in all, this wolf took right about 6 to 7 hours, which for me personally is incredibly fast. For me, color pencil is a very slow medium. But the paper really helped speeding up the process, not only by the texture, but the fact that it's toned, which I hadn't expected at all actually. I'm impressed by that, as I would never have been able to create a picture like this on a smoother surface in less than 10 hours, I'd say. So I must admit, I completely changed my mind about this paper as I was working on the drawing, and it turned out I was positively surprised. The cons I experienced were the texture. I don't exactly like the feel of it, as I mentioned before. It can be a bit scratchy, but that's just a personal thing. And also the issue I had of not feeling like I could achieve details as easily and sharp edges. As said, I think this may just be resolved by having more time working with the paper and the techniques that this type of paper requires. The pros are definitely how much faster it was to work on, and the fact that I could create a Panpastel background. I love PASTELMAT for pastels, and it has just the perfect amount of texture and sturdiness to work on. But for color pencils, I think it takes a bit more practice than one piece. Overall, I was very happy that I tried out this paper, and I might just do more pieces on it with color pencils in the future. I could see that it would be easier working on a larger scale, as it was so much quicker to lay down pigments. A really big pro for this paper was the fact that you are able to lay light colors over dark colors because of the texture, as long as you haven't overworked the paper, and this worked phenomenal. Anyways, that's pretty much it for this guy. I hope you liked it, and comment down below if